If you just had this thing that a lot of people in other industries seem to have, which is even though they're in this incredible business where cash is just flowing and it's great, they just have always longed to be in the media business. Is that you?
No, not at all. I'll try to be succinct with this, but look, we've been a telecom company, right? I've grown up as a telecom guy. And it was back in 2012 where we were trying to discern where are we going with this thing. And we said, look, there are a lot of directions you could go from here. But the one thing you better get right is you better get just the connectivity piece of your business right. You better do that right. And so we began investing really, really aggressively in 2012, all about mobile, by the way, investing heavily in our mobile platform and poured billions into it. And we actually constructed what is a network that it's just kind of suited for video delivery. And so we picked our head up a couple of years ago and said, we think we're there. And we had unbelievable capacity. We'd gone out and in our industry, you have to have wireless spectrum to handle this kind of video consumption. We bought a ton of wireless spectrum. We have a really large portfolio of empty spectrum waiting to be loaded with video. And so we picked our head up a couple years ago and said, so what kind of video? Because if you look at our industry, everybody's kind of going different directions, right? You have some saying, look, it's all about ad-supported short-form video if you're talking about mobility. The millennials don't want to watch premium long-form content. It's all about short-form video. We've never been there. We are adamant believers that premium long-form content is going to have legs for a long time, not only on the TV, but especially in the world of mobility. We're evangelical about this. So to that end, we acquired DirecTV for mobile, interestingly enough. We weren't in love with satellite technology, believe it or not. What we needed was scale in premium content. And so we bought DirecTV, and immediately we got some really huge cost synergies, $1.5 billion a year, run rate cost synergies by our content costs going down dramatically. That was really important. So we have the lowest content cost in the industry. And being the large player, we got the media rights to deliver all of that content to our mobile customers. A lot of people roll their eyes, say, nobody's going to watch this stuff on a mobile device. We turned up very quickly. If you're a DirecTV customer, you can watch all of that content on your mobile device. Month of October, just this last October, 40 million streams, DirecTV streams consumed on a mobile device. That was up over September 40%. This thing is growing month over month at a 40% clip, the amount of this premium video being consumed on a mobile device. It also gave us the ability to negotiate content rights to distribute all that content over the top. You're not a DirecTV subscriber, we don't care. We'll deliver it to you over the top to a wireless device. We announced last week a product called DirecTV Now. 100 channels, $35 a month, all of that content available to you. And by the way, that includes all your data streaming to that device. So we launched that last week on Wednesday. My guy that runs this product and this business gave me his forecast for how good this product would be. So he gave me his December forecast. He hit his December forecast on Wednesday, the first day he launched it, all right? Think about it. This is heavy apartment dwelling centric people, millennials, all the people who said would not watch premium long-form content on a mobile device, they're watching it. And so we kind of get to the back end of this and we say, you know, are people going to watch premium long-form content on a mobile device? That ship has sailed. We are there. They consume it, and they consume a lot of it. In fact, they consume more of it in a mobile environment. And so here we sit, we say, okay, do we need to own content? And I believe the answer strongly was yes. Owning content would kind of complete this strategy. And so which content should we own? And look, there was one asset out there that was the premium. It was the peach of them all, and that was Time Warner. And Jeff and I got together and put our heads together and talked about this world, where it was going. I think Jeff was here this morning and talked about this. And I got to tell you, we became convinced that this would be really powerful if we could put these two companies together, begin to innovate the content for a mobile-centric environment. And so we did this deal, and we've formed what we think is the global leader in TMT, Telecom Media Entertainment Technology. So that's kind of what led us here.
And why do you have to own the content? Because you obviously, with DirecTV, you're dealing with lots and lots of different content producers. Why do you have to own one?
So think about the process I just talked through, and that is, we got DirecTV, so now we were a very relevant player with all the media folks. And by virtue of that, we were able to get the rights to deliver that content to a mobile device. Stop. No further. That's all we got. If you really want to do something that's mobile-centric and changes the game in a world of mobility, if you say, here's my aspiration. My aspiration is a customer subscribes to content from whoever, AT&T. Once they've paid that subscription, they should own that content right. They should be able to watch that content anytime they want to watch it. If they want to watch season 1, episode 4, they should always be able to watch it. They should be able to watch it anywhere they are, on any device they want, okay? What we got was the rights to distribute video, media over a mobile device. Mobile DVR. You have to have a cloud-based DVR to give your customer the ability to watch anytime, anywhere they want. We can't get those rights. It's really hard to get those rights. We would like to make sure that the video is curated and formed in a way that is optimized for this device. That's actually not something a lot of people aspire to, because if you make this experience too good, what happens to the other experience, right? Do people, believe it or not, we have that conversation. What if you want to have the screen split and the ability to do social interaction while you're viewing content? I mean, the people in media are very apprehensive about these kind of things. And so what Jeff and I talked about, we have got to take this, we've got to innovate on media and content to a different place. We've got to go fast. Just like DirecTV Now, we had been partnered with DirecTV for years and couldn't innovate on a DirecTV Now product. We own them. Within a year, that product's in the market. 1 year, okay? Can we do this same thing in terms of innovating with the content and do the things I'm talking about? Jeff and I are convinced that we get the Time Warner content. Think about Turner Networks. Think about HBO, Game of Thrones, and Westworld. Being able to do the type of stuff we're talking about with those pieces of content. And then Warner Brothers Studios, having a content library that is the best content library on the planet, and doing this kind of innovation with that content library, curated and formatted for a mobile environment, we think we can step this up and step up the pace of innovation and create something unique that you will not be able to do in an arm's length kind of arrangement.
And when people use DirecTV Now, or just the mobile DirecTV, how are they watching linear television? They're just turning on a network, or are they going after particular shows?
Yes.
Yes, and yes.
Yes, I mean, it's everything. You subscribe to your content and you own it. That's the vision. So a very broad VOD library, video on demand library. It's very impressive. Depending on the company, we have the media rights for. We have stacked content, so that you can have Game of Thrones. All episodes, all seasons are out there on Game of Thrones. You go on and you can watch any of those episodes that you wish. And then live TV. So, I was over at an analyst conference this morning, and several of the analysts, they're the perfect audience for this, right? They're 30-somethings, they live in apartments, and they have broadband, but they don't want a big screen TV service. They all have it on their tablet. They're talking about, man, I'm scrolling through the channels. It's fast, it's moving, it's quick, it's live TV, it's VOD libraries, it's everything. So it's very unique.
And so who is ideally going to buy it? Who are the folks who've signed up and bought out December on the first day? Are they people without cable, but they just want access to television? Ultimately, do you hope to displace cable?
So the target on this are these 20 million households that have no pay TV subscription. And these are the people that a lot of the experts have said they're out of the TV market. They're out of the premium linear TV market. These folks have cut the cord. They're never coming back. And we have said, we don't think so. We think they've cut the cord because the cost. I mean, these are the people that live in an apartment typically and don't want to spend $100 a month on a cable TV subscription. 35 bucks, 100 channels, and by the way, you can put this up on your TV screen. If you have a smart TV, Apple TV on it, boom, you can sling it right off of your mobile device onto the TV screen. That's the target audience, and what we have done is limited it to 2 streams.
2 streams meaning?
You can have 2 simultaneous streams going at any time, so think about it. My 2 streams, I have more than 2 streams, I think, in my living room, right? And so we have probably like 10 streams in our house, meaning TVs hanging on a wall, set-top boxes, and so forth.
And so it's just for mobile, though. I can't use it to just replace cable to the TV.
Oh, yeah, you can. So it was designed mobile first, but if you have a Roku, if you have an Amazon Fire, if you have an Apple TV in your home, Just go out to Apple TV, pull down the app, DirecTV Now, boom, you're watching DirecTV Now on your 80-inch screen in your home.
And part of this is that you're zero rating, I gather.
Right.
So you're not charging me for the data if I'm an AT&T wireless customer.
Correct.
So the FCC, I gather, has looked into this and is unhappy with you, saying, wait, this may violate net neutrality laws. Does it?
We've been doing this for decades, right? So if it is violative of net neutrality, we've been violating net neutrality for a long time. And I hope there aren't fines attached to this. We'd be in trouble, right? I mean, think about what we're doing. The first instance of this was, I think, maybe in the 1950s, when AT&T did a deal with Sears and Roebuck, and you call Sears and Roebuck using this 1-800 number. Sears picks up the long distance charge, right? That's what we're doing here. Back in 2008, I called Jeff Bezos to talk about the Kindle. And back in 2008, we did a deal with Amazon, that when you got your Kindle, you downloaded a book for $10 or whatever it was, the AT&T data charge was included in that $10. And I can go through example after example. We've been doing this for years. All we did at DirecTV was stole that example. So DirecTV just pays that same wholesale rate as Amazon does for our mobility business, and DirecTV picks up the tab for the mobility business, for the mobility charge.
So is the net neutrality dream, is it just stupid? Are you for net neutrality in some other way? Or are people misunderstanding it? Like, what is your position on it?
So I'll answer that question by you answering mine. What is net neutrality to you?
Believe me, somebody you talk to, everyone is incredibly adamant about it, and they all have different definitions.
Are you for peace?
No.
Yes, I am for peace. But so net neutrality. Look, do I agree that people who are in the internet service provider business should not be able to block you from accessing certain content? Absolutely. Do I agree that there should be no paid prioritization? You know, meaning that some big guy can get a faster lane than somebody else with their content by paying a lot of money for it? Absolutely. So the key principles of net neutrality, we actually help the FCC draft and craft those. What to us is illogical is where the thing ended up going, and that is taking all of the internet businesses, all of the wireless businesses, and putting them under the purview of regulation that was designed and written in 1939 to regulate the black telephone, under the guise that we will not regulate prices. That is not our intent. Well, we got a really aggressive letter from the FCC about zero rating. That's regulating prices. The FCC had a policy or an initiative going on business data services. That's broadband. The pricing of business broadband services. So you see the point. Once you put something under a regulatory purview, a regulator is going to regulate. And so am I in favor of net neutrality? As it was implemented and crafted, I think it's a bad idea. I think it's bad for the industry. I think it's bad for investment. All we need is one more inhibitor to the one industry that has invested all the way through this down cycle the last 8 years. And we've invested AT&T more than any company in the country in the last 8 years.
And $20 billion a year in CapEx.
It adds up after a while.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
One could argue that, hey, you should be able to do things like this given how much you're putting into it, relative especially to a lot of the companies that are not doing that and are benefiting greatly from it. We have a new president coming in. After he was elected, maybe, said AT&T Time Warner is an outrage, too much power in one hand, never happened under my, something like that, yes. So are you worried about that? Or, on the other hand, given the letter you just got from the FCC threatening you on zero rating and so forth, are you saying, oh, counting the days until Trump comes in and changes out the FCC and we get a nice friendly one? Like, which is it? Are you terrified or are you excited?
Look, anytime the president-elect of the United States comes out and says that they're not in favor of something you're trying to do, you have to pay attention, all right? That's a serious issue. I really don't know what part of it he was referring to. I've heard rumors that he is not happy with CNN. That's part of the deal that we're buying. And so I don't know how much any of that came into play with it. What I feel comfortable with is that this is, under any definition, a vertical merger. And that means AT&T, we are in the distribution business. Time Warner is in the content creation business. We compete nowhere. It's a classic vertical merger, and you're hard-pressed. In fact, I don't think you can find an example either in the media entertainment or in the telecom business where such a merger has been denied. And so, it'll go before the Department of Justice. It'll get a full and thorough review. But generally, vertical mergers are viewed as consumer friendly. And to the extent that there are issues, they generally are remedied with concessions in a consent decree with the Department of Justice. So we'll work through that process and work that. But I would tell you the merits of the law suggest it's a deal that gets done. Now, from a broader standpoint, President-elect Trump, I would tell you, we look just from the perspective of our industry and our business as this is very positive development for our industry. And it's a positive development just in terms of investment and so forth. If you think about the day of the election, there were 5 or 6 key issues queued up at the FCC that were being shoved through, literally. And they included, privacy, how we're to be regulated on privacy, which could not have been done absent net neutrality. Business data services, which we have talked about. There are a list of 5 or 6 of these. Those 5 or 6 issues, with the exception of zero rating, are done. They're gone, okay? And a Republican commission, Ajit Pai, Michael O'Reilly, are strongly on record against all of those. And so it seems to us improbable that those will be picked up again. So just stop. 5 or 6 regulations that were going to slow down an industry, probably each of them would probably wind up in court at some point. They're gone, all right? What is the implication of that to an industry that moves at the speed of this one? What is the implication of that to an industry that's pouring capital in and all of a sudden you find yourself pausing and saying, should we invest there? I think the implications are big. And in fact, I would suggest that a lot of the economists that have been commenting about the impact of regulation are missing the point. There is no decision, whether it's doing a big acquisition like Time Warner or whether it's saying, I'm going to put a service like DirecTV Now in the marketplace and I'm going to price it with zero-rated data. All of those require extensive deliberation and calibration on what is the regulatory implication of this. It causes a stifling in corporate America to pause and evaluate every move you make under this guise. And so I think this is going to have an impact on how fast innovation happens. I think it's going to have an impact on how fast investment decisions are made and capital allocation decisions are made. I think we're understating what the implications are if we truly do get to a more rational regulatory environment.
Do the regulations do any good for anybody? Do they protect consumers from bad things?
Regulations serve a lot of consumer protection. I think there are logical regulations on privacy. That the regulators have a place on customer privacy and data privacy. They have an absolute place. What I've struggled with is the FTC has put out some rules, make perfect sense. Google, Amazon, all of you guys abide by these rules. The FCC says, you know what, but we think over here we ought to regulate it differently and put different rules over here for these. Look, I don't think we need 2 sets of rules. Who's the rule maker? Who's the regulator? Let's regulate in one place, but we don't need 2 of them. Business data services, business broadband. Do we really need to regulate pricing of business broadband? Consumer protections, absolutely. But consumer pricing, I think it's a fairly competitive market. I think one would argue that anybody in this room who tries to get broadband service has only one option or alternative. So, regulation always has a place, but rational, number 1. Predictable, number 2. What we have had at the FCC has been a lack of predictability on regulations and even a lack of predictability on what kind of M&A transactions can get done. So that's what I think is most important. Does the rule of law drive decision making? Can people assess their capital decisions and their M&A decisions based on what the law says? Or do we have to go through another filter on how might a regulator view this, right?
So let's talk about pricing, because and I am not asking for a regulator to come in and regulate it, but I am an AT&T customer, wireless, very happy with the service. Every month you are kind enough to send me a text saying what my bill is and that it's been paid, because it's all set up automatically. And I have to note that these numbers, as I now have a family of AT&T customers, are getting pretty large. People complain incessantly about their cable bill. Randall, I am paying AT&T, based on the last text you sent me, over $5,000 a year for my family to have wireless.
Suddenly find myself.
Yeah, that's a lot of money. So I'm not asking Washington to say charge Henry less, but like, is there any hope for me? Because I know, like, every year I'm going to have more and more and more and more data, and your zero rating sounds great, but I actually am still grandfathered into your all-you-can-eat plan, which was wonderful, thank you. Is there hope for me? Like, I'm not going to disconnect, and you and Verizon pretty much own the market. Like, is anyone going to come in and offer me a much cheaper service?
I think T-Mobile's doing a pretty good job.
It's
I think
true.
Sprint is
so
doing
explain
a
it to
very
me.
nice job.
Why are they not inducing you to say, Henry, we're going to cut you a break? And because the other thing I want to point out,
we all have different value propositions, right? I mean, we have a value proposition to compete at that end of the market. It's called Cricket. It's doing quite well. We're adding hundreds of thousands of subscribers every single quarter. It is a much lower cost model than what we have. It is not a high touch model. Our stores, if you go into our stores, they're not going to be the high touch customer experience. It's a good experience. It's a quality experience, but it's not what I would consider a very high touch experience. And when you think about customers like you, very demanding, I can obviously tell. You walk into a store, if you're not addressed by name, if you're not treated well because you pay us $5,000 a year, we will lose you. And so it's more than about the price. Customers like you are willing to pay a premium to get that kind of customer experience and touch. And wherever you go, you expect that device to work. You know, my wife and I spend a lot of time in the mountains. I expect it to work, you know, when I'm in the mountains. And so broad, ubiquitous coverage, broad, ubiquitous capability to stream video in all these locations. You know, we invest $20 billion a year for a reason, right? For a premium experience. And so the beauty about the market is it's competitive. There are alternatives that to fit your needs and what it is you desire out of your product set. And so a regulator has a role to play when that situation doesn't exist. I think they have a big role to play where that situation doesn't exist. But where there is a competitive environment, I think the regulation needs to be lighter touch, especially in markets and areas like this that are so capital intensive, because this industry is investing more in the U.S. than any other industry. If you want to continue attracting that kind of investment, then a lighter touch regulation speeds it up and brings more to it.
So there's no hope for you on the big plan, but you can have the stripped down crappy service.
What is your hope? If your hope is you want a really robust service to stream video and so forth.
In most industries, like it's not like this is brutally competitive. You're just surviving the media business. You're going to make it another year. You make $25 billion of operating income per year. We're making a nice contribution to that. Why isn't it that someone comes in and says, you know what, we're going to offer great service for half the price? Like everyone's going to need more bids.
Point. Yes, 25, you're a little high, but $20 billion of pre-tax income. We take and reinvest 20.
No, that's cash flow. I looked at the financial statements, cash flow, and you invest a huge amount, $20 billion a year in building stuff.
Free cash flow is not $20 billion.
Yeah.
I'll teach you to read a P&L or cash flow statement. Right? I aspire for it to be $20 billion, but it is not $20 billion. Our guidance this year is that it will be 16. Okay.
Okay.
And so
huge difference
there. But we do. It's a capital-intensive business. You know, people say you're high margin. Yeah, we put 16% of our revenues back into the business in terms of capital every year, and that doesn't include the investment we make in spectrum. Last year we spent $18 billion on licensing airwaves. Just licensing airwaves. That's not in the CapEx number. It's not in the P&L number. That's just $18 billion to acquire the airwaves to provide this service, okay? So it's a heavily capital-intensive business, and if you want the capital expense, if you want the quality service, if you want to stream video, if you want to do all these kind of things, it's not a low-cost item to produce.
So let's talk about the happy next thing for me. If my bill is not going to go down.
I want one happy thing from you.
No,
what is that
it's great service. But am I going to get 5G soon? And what's that like? Is that going to be transformative?
Yeah, here's what I tell people. Think about this for a moment. We launched the first iPhone ever back in 2007, AT&T did. And do you remember? It was launched on a 2G network, right? It was, and you reflect on this, you go, wow, and you remember what happened. I mean, this thing is, whoom, The demand was massive, the bandwidth demand was massive, and all of our plans to deploy 3G just got shoved forward. It got pulled forward massively. And then 4G got pulled forward aggressively because this thing was just requiring so much bandwidth. And what I tell people was, in 2007, we launched a 4G device on a 2G network, all right? We went through two multi-billion dollar technology upgrades in 5 years. Multi-billion dollar technology upgrades, 2 in 5 years. I think we're in the process, DirecTV Now, think about what we're doing with the Time Warner content when this deal closes. I think we're probably launching a 5G service on a 4G network. And I am quite confident that all of our plans for standards and investment for 5G are going to be pulled forward. I'll be stunned if they aren't. We're already thinking about this. How do we bring this forward? Because I think it's really going to be the case. 5G, why is it so important? Think 1 gig service on a wireless platform, all right? 1 gigabit speeds, that's a huge deal. It's whatever your fastest cable modem service is that's out there right now, wirelessly delivered, that's what 5G will deliver. That's what we're after. And we want a ubiquitous 1 gig network delivered wirelessly. Our target architecture is exactly this. And it's fundamentally important for delivering a video experience like we envision in the future. But I will tell you what else is fundamentally important for. Autonomous cars. You will not get to autonomous without 5G networks. And so as we think about where we prioritize 5G deployment, it's going to be in major metropolitan areas where you think autonomous cars will evolve first, San Francisco, New York, and so forth. It's critical for that. Think about virtual augmented reality or mixed reality. Look, this stuff is real, man. It's coming, all right? It's going to be a reality. 5G is absolutely foundational for those kinds of services. And so the Internet of Things, you can conceive of all the IoT type functionality when everything on you or in your life is network connected. All of this requires 5G, low latency, high bandwidth type capabilities. And so we and Verizon are in a food fight on this one. We're both going hard and acquiring spectrum to make it a reality, deploying fiber. It's going to take a lot of fiber to make this a reality, but a wireless 1 gig network's a big deal.
So not that I'm volunteering to pay you more every month, but when can I get it?
How much you got? No, you'll see us actually start to put the technology into specific markets next year, but in terms of scaling, we're into 2018 and into 2019 as it begins to scale and truly becomes a mass ubiquitous type offering.
And so going from that, what do you think the world looks like in 5 to 10 years in your industries, which are now wireless, obviously, and content? You've got huge cable businesses out there. What you've just described sounds like cable isn't necessary anymore. Why would I have a wire coming to my house when I could just have a base station? All the content, Google, Facebook, all the over-the-top guys. As you look forward 5 to 10 years, what do you think things look like?
If you went back 10 years, 2016, so 2006, and if you asked me that same question, there is no way I would have talked about app stores and I would have talked about a touch screen device that accesses the internet on mobile service, but I could not have conceived candidly in terms of where we are in terms of smartphone technology. I would not have conceived of a tablet and what the world of tablets is doing. So I'm only setting this up to tell you how low visionary capabilities I have, okay? That being the case, the one thing we did know in 2006, we knew without a doubt, is that whatever you're doing today in a fixed broadband connection, 10 years from now, you'll be doing that in a wireless connection, all right? And I'm talking about internet type functionality. We fundamentally, foundationally believed that was the case, and we had to get busy building this capability. I sit here today and I say, whatever it is, I mean, big time bandwidth intensive stuff that's going to come in the future, we have to be ahead of it because there's some things landing simultaneously right now that I think are game changing and are going to set the platform for the next 10 years. The first is 5G. It's going to happen, and it's probably going to happen on the back of video, okay? So because of video, we're going to deploy this 5G ubiquitous technology. What is that going to allow? That's going to allow autonomous cars. It's going to allow virtual reality. It's going to allow all that kind of stuff on the back of this. But while that's coming into play, right on top of this, we are actually at the place, we've been talking about this forever, cloud technology, that we will virtualize the data center, and that the cost of storage and the cost of compute is going to drop like a rock. And as that drops, it fundamentally changes the cost structure of so many things, and it will allow so many things to happen that we could not have conceived of. That's happening. It is at scale now. Amazon is a massive cloud provider. Microsoft, a massive cloud provider. Put with that data analytics, and put with that just sensors everywhere that are throwing off unbelievable amounts of information onto these networks that are feeding into this cloud. And you have a world that's going to be really fascinating when you layer artificial intelligence on top of this, okay? So we're going to be living in a world where video is pervasively in front of you, whether it's on this device, whether it's on a screen you carry, or whether it's in an augmented or virtualized reality on your glasses. Video is going to be persistently in front of you. Think about the world of autonomous cars. What are you doing in that car now? Ain't nobody driving, all right? What are you doing in the car? We believe you're going to be either productive, working, or you're going to be watching and consuming video. Today, the average person consumes, on an average, per day, 5 hours of video. That seems amazing to me, but that is the average. 10 to 15 years from now, we think that number is 9 hours. Again, persistently through here, in a screen in a car, wherever. It's going to be a video-rich world. And a lot of the media that we consume today, a lot of the reading that we consume today, I am convinced is going to be video-centric, not word-centric. And so it's going to be a world where video is a major part of everything that we do.
Randall, thank you so much. Great to have you.
Enjoyed it, Henry.
Yeah.
Good to be with you.
Thanks, everybody.